What if I told you that tonight isn't just another ordinary night? That before midnight, something in the field begins to shift quietly, invisibly, like the hum of distant electricity before a storm. If you're seeing this now, it isn't by coincidence. You were meant to recalibrate your inner compass, your rhythm, your field, before the hour resets. And though you may not yet remember why, you can feel it somewhere deep in the circuitry of your being, pulsing like a message waiting to be decoded. The test isn't written on paper, and it doesn't announce itself with questions. It arrives as a moment when everything inside you feels misaligned, your timing off, your energy scattered, your purpose uncertain. You'll sense it as that sudden heaviness at twilight, when time stretches and your mind fills with noise that isn't quite your own. That's the signal, the invitation to remember that your consciousness, like Tesla's towers, is built to transmit and receive frequencies far beyond the audible range of thought. Before midnight, the field becomes unusually responsive, thin between worlds, porous to coherence. And whether you realize it or not, your next breath is casting a vote for which frequency you'll live in when the clock resets. Tesla once said that to understand the secrets of the universe, you must think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was describing a living architecture of consciousness that humanity has forgotten. He knew that alignment isn't a moral concept, it's electrical. It's coherence between your thought and your field. Most people, unaware of their internal dissonance, continue broadcasting static. They misfire their own potential every night at midnight, when the field renews itself. They fall asleep in noise and awaken in loops. But if you learn to tune, if you learn to recalibrate, the entire pattern of your life begins to respond differently. Tesla believed that each human being was a transmitter of light encoded with intelligence. He called it the resonance of being. When that resonance drifts off, frequency, when your inner electricity gets trapped in emotional resistance or mental noise, you start living in interference patterns, caught between who you are and who you're meant to become. Midnight, symbolically and energetically, is when those patterns dissolve into neutrality. The universe, for a moment, listens. The field pauses to ask a silent question. Are you transmitting noise or signal? Chaos or coherence? To recalibrate before midnight is to remember the stillness Tesla lived by, the sacred quiet in which ideas appeared fully formed, like lightning sketches in the dark. It's not about doing more, achieving faster, or manifesting louder. It's about returning to your natural frequency before the field amplifies whatever you're carrying. This is the test, though few ever recognize it. Can you stay coherent when the hour turns? Can you remain aware enough to notice your own vibration before the field mirrors it back? If you can, something extraordinary begins. Your inner current steadies. Random thoughts lose their grip. The background noise fades, replaced by a subtle hum of knowing, a resonance that feels both ancient and familiar, like remembering a language you once spoke fluently in another lifetime. That's the beginning of recalibration. That's the threshold Tesla called the gateway between time and timelessness. So if you're hearing this, it means the timing is exact. You're standing at that threshold, preparing to pass the test you've been training for unconsciously your entire life. The night isn't warning you, it's inviting you. Before midnight, you're meant to remember who you are as a frequency, not a personality. Take a breath. Notice the hum beneath the silence. The field is listening, and Tesla, through the architecture of the unseen, is guiding you to align. If you've ever wondered why the same patterns keep replaying in your life like a scene stuck on repeat, it isn't because you're cursed or failing some invisible spiritual exam. It's because your system, mind, breath, body, and the field around you has been running an old script without realizing you are both the actor and the projector. As you move toward midnight, that script often gets louder. Old memories surface, familiar problems reappear, your chest tightens, your thoughts speed up. It feels as if life is testing you from the outside, but the real test is happening inside the mechanism that interprets what you see. Here's how the loop works. A trigger appears, a bank notification, a message that never arrives, a tired tone in someone's voice, a look you interpret as rejection. In a fraction of a second, your breath changes. It becomes shallow, held, or uneven. That tiny adjustment shifts your internal state. your nervous system leans toward contraction. From that contracted state, your mind begins to assign meaning. I'm not safe. I'm not enough. It's happening again. That meaning isn't neutral. It's electrical. It charges your body, colors your perception, and narrows your awareness. From that charged meaning, you act. Maybe you withdraw, over-explain, scroll aimlessly, agree to something you don't want, or attack before you can be hurt. Those actions create outcomes that seem to confirm your original story. See? I really am alone. Money really is impossible. People really don't care. The evidence piles up, and the loop tightens. Trigger breath state meaning action evidence. Repeat. This becomes your personal reality algorithm, quietly running in the background while you blame fate, other people, or even the universe for what your own pattern has been broadcasting. No one ever sat you down and explained this algorithm. You absorbed it from family dynamics, cultural narratives, and moments where your system did the best it could to keep you safe. Over time, it became automatic. Like a miscalibrated Tesla coil, you keep sending high-voltage impulses into the field without a grounded structure to shape them. The result is sparks, not signal. Static, not music. You feel the inner electricity, but it doesn't quite translate into the life you sense you were built for. The crisis isn't that you experience negative thoughts or emotions. It's that you've forgotten you are the one observing them. You've mistaken the stream of data for the one who reads it. When you forget you are the observer, you become the loop. You don't just experience anxiety, you become an anxious person. You don't just feel scarcity, you become someone who never has enough. Identity fuses with pattern, and from that fusion, the field has no new instruction. It simply amplifies what you're already broadcasting. Midnight comes, the field thins, and instead of recalibrating, you fall asleep inside the same story. Tesla understood the danger of ungrounded oscillation. Even if he spoke in the language of currents rather than feelings, an unstable system will always swing wildly. In human terms, that looks like spiritual whiplash. You meditate for a few days, feel hopeful, then crash back into familiar turbulence and conclude, nothing works for me. It's not that nothing works. It's that you've been polishing the surface while the underlying algorithm keeps looping unchecked. You're adjusting the wallpaper in a house whose wiring is still misaligned. Most people try to escape the loop by rearranging the scenery. New job, new partner, new city, new routine. These changes can be beautiful, but without inner recalibration, they quickly become new stages for the same old script. Midnight comes, the field quietly resets, and the loop reloads like a background program. Another month passes, another year. The calendar advances, but the frequency doesn't. You wake up inside the same emotional climate, wondering why nothing out there seems to fix what is repeating in here. This is the perceptual crisis. You've been living as though reality is something that simply happens to you, instead of something constantly co-authored by how you interpret your experience. You've been reading the world like a fixed text, instead of recognizing that you are holding the pen. When a challenge appears, you unconsciously ask, why is this against me? Rather than, what is this revealing about my current calibration? That small shift in question is the threshold between repeating the test and beginning to pass it. The loop stops being a sentence and becomes a syllabus. The truth is, the loop is not random, it's instructional. Each recurring situation is like a highlighted line in the book of your life, inviting you to pause and actually read what it's saying. But because the trigger arrives with a familiar emotional charge, your breath reacts before your awareness can catch up. By the time you notice you're upset, the state is already encoded, the meaning already chosen, the action already halfway taken. It feels automatic because, until now, it has been. Yet the moment you can say, here is the trigger, here is my breath, here is the meaning I'm assigning, you are no longer fully inside the loop. You're sitting on the riverbank instead of being swept away by the current. Tesla used to visualize entire devices in his mind, running them for hours, testing every component before he ever built anything in the physical world. You can learn to do something similar with your inner mechanisms. Instead of automatically living the loop, you start to see it as a blueprint, an energetic diagram of how you move from trigger to evidence. That diagram is not your destiny, it's a prototype. It can be refined. Tonight, as you edge closer to midnight, Your perceptual crisis is actually your doorway. You're beginning to sense that the test isn't about pleasing some external judge, but about remembering your role as the observer engineer of your own field. And once you understand how the algorithm runs, you're ready for the next layer, the quantum idea Tesla pointed to, where your attention, like a beam of quiet light, doesn't just watch reality. It begins to help choose which version of it becomes solid. To understand what truly happens when you recalibrate before midnight, you have to step into a deeper layer of your own experience, one Tesla lived in constantly, though he rarely explained it directly. He wasn't merely experimenting with electricity. He was practicing a way of perceiving reality that most people touch only in brief moments of awe, déjà vu, or sudden clarity. He understood something that physics later echoed metaphorically. The observer doesn't just witness the field. The observer organizes it. Not through force, not through wishful thinking, through coherence, through the quality of awareness you bring to this exact moment. Think of your attention as a kind of soft, luminous beam. Wherever you place it, the field becomes more solid, more defined. Whatever you refuse to look at, or habitually avoid, stays blurry, unresolved, and therefore prone to repeating itself. This isn't mystical exaggeration, it's a lived experience. You already know what it feels like. When you worry intensely about something, that worry becomes the center of your perception, coloring every conversation and every choice. When you're deeply peaceful, the same world looks entirely different. In both cases, the world didn't change, you did. The observer shifted, and the field responded. Tesla described this subtly when he spoke of one's resonance aligning with the architecture of reality. He wasn't talking about chanting or vision boards. He meant the state you're in when you meet the world. Most humans never learn to hold coherence long enough for reality to respond. They jump from thought to thought, emotion to emotion, scattering their internal electricity like a spark with no grounding. But when your awareness settles even for a few seconds, something extraordinary happens. Your field organizes, your breath slows, your emotional static quiets. The noise inside your mind drops in volume, and you begin to sense a deeper dimension beneath the usual turbulence. A still, spacious quality that feels like the sky behind the clouds. This stillness isn't emptiness, it's potential. It's the quantum idea expressed through the human experience. In the gap between your reactions and your awareness lies an entire spectrum of possible realities. When you're fully tangled in your reactions, it feels like there's only one option, your emotional reflex. But the moment you observe your experience instead of being consumed by it, the field opens. Suddenly, you're not locked into one version of events. You feel the subtle possibility that another meaning, another response, another timeline is available. You've had moments like this, moments when time seemed to slow, when a decision felt strangely clear, when you watched yourself choose differently without effort. That sensation isn't random, it's coherence. It's your awareness becoming so steady, so present, that the field becomes responsive instead of reactive. In those few seconds, the you, who usually reacts, dissolves, and the observer emerges quiet, aware, unhurried. Tesla lived from this place. His genius wasn't only his intellect, it was his relationship with the field. He knew that coherent awareness is not a mental trick, it's a frequency, a way of listening to the universe that invites response rather than resistance. Here's the emotional truth. Your consciousness is constantly broadcasting, whether you intend it or not, and the field around you, your relationships, your opportunities, your challenges responds not to your words, but to your frequency, not to your goals, but to your coherence. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are in the moments between your breaths. When you're anxious, life feels tight. When you're grounded, life feels fluid. When you're coherent, life feels strangely cooperative, as though something unseen is walking with you, aligning the pieces you didn't know how to align yourself. The observer effect isn't saying that you magically control the universe. It's saying that what you observe within yourself determines how you navigate the universe, and that navigation changes your lived reality. Imagine standing on a shoreline at night. The ocean is in constant motion, waves rising, falling, dissolving. You cannot stop the waves, but you can choose where you stand, how you breathe, whether you panic or remain grounded, whether you let the water pull you under or let it carry you. Your internal state determines your experience, even though the ocean is the same. In the same way, the quantum field of your life, the events, opportunities, and intersections never stops moving. But your observer state determines whether you stand centered or overwhelmed. Coherence isn't about controlling the waves. It's about remembering you are not the waves. You are the awareness seeing them rise and fall. And the moment you remember that even briefly, the field begins to listen differently. Your life begins responding to the version of you who is present, aware, and grounded rather than the version running on reflex and conditioning. Tesla accessed this state through silence. He would sit for hours in complete stillness, letting his mind settle into coherence until ideas appeared with crystalline clarity. He didn't force inspiration. He attuned to it. You are capable of the same inner alignment, not to become an inventor, but to become a coherent presence inside your own life. Before midnight, this becomes especially potent not because of cosmic superstition, but because transitions always magnify awareness. Coherence isn't about controlling the waves. It's about remembering you are not the waves. You are the awareness seeing them rise and fall. And the moment you remember that even briefly, the field begins to listen differently. Your life begins responding to the version of you who is present, aware, and grounded rather than the version running on reflex and conditioning. Tesla accessed this state through silence. And when your field becomes coherent, your reality begins to shift in ways that feel improbable, intuitive, even guided. Not because you forced anything, but because you aligned with the version of you the universe has been waiting for. Your next breath is not just a breath. It is an act of choosing which version of yourself will meet the rest of this night, and the field is already listening. Long before the language of frequencies and fields existed, ancient civilizations were mapping the same mysteries using symbols, stories, and rituals. They didn't speak of coherence or observer effect, but they pointed toward the same truth. Your inner state determines the world you walk into. Tonight, as you move toward the threshold of midnight, it helps to remember the metaphors they left behind because they describe your inner landscape with a clarity that transcends time. In ancient Egypt, the journey of the soul was guided by Ma'at, the principle of truth, balance, and cosmic order. She carried a single feather, and at the moment of transition, every soul's heart was placed on a scale against that feather. This wasn't a punishment story. It was psychological genius. The heart feather test was never about morality. It was about coherence. A heavy heart, burdened with fear, regret, unresolved thought, could not rise. A light heart, clear, present, aligned, could cross the threshold with ease. This was their way of teaching what Tesla would later articulate through currents and vibration. Heaviness collapses possibility. Lightness expands it. When your inner state is dense, reactive, or chaotic, you cannot enter a new reality, even if the doorway is wide open. Every night, a symbolic weighing happens within you. Midnight is your personal gateway, the moment your heart and your awareness meet the feather of your own truth. Not the truth of who you were today, but the truth of who you are beneath the noise. The Egyptians believed that in these thresholds, the unseen world becomes easier to access, and your inner architecture mirrors that openness. They taught that a person aligned with Ma'at didn't need external validation or fear divine judgment. Their heart itself would tell them whether they were in harmony. When your breath steadies, when your thoughts soften, when you feel that quiet inner exhale, that's your heart becoming light, your field coming into balance, your awareness returning to its center. Meanwhile, across another ancient landscape, the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, observing his own mind with a clarity that would echo across centuries. He would sit for hours in complete stillness, letting his mind settle into coherence until ideas appeared with crystalline clarity. He didn't force inspiration. He attuned to it. You are capable of the same inner alignment, not to become an inventor, but to become a coherent presence inside your own life. Before midnight, this becomes especially potent not because of cosmic superstition, but because transitions always magnify awareness. He taught that when you watch the breath without clinging, the turbulence quiets, and the mind reveals itself as vast, luminous, and fundamentally peaceful. These two traditions, Egyptian and Buddhist, may seem worlds apart, but they converge in a single revelation. Coherence is the path through the threshold. A light heart and a steady breath are not poetic images, they're inner technologies. The closing of one chapter and the beginning of another, creates a natural opening in your perception. The field thins. Your inner static becomes more noticeable. And if you listen closely, you can feel the quiet invitation, recalibrate now. This is the heart of the quantum idea, not a scientific formula, but a lived truth. When your awareness becomes steady, your field becomes coherent. Ruach was seen as the animating wind, the moving spirit within all living things. Neshama was the quiet, observing essence, the spark of awareness untouched by emotion or thought. Together, they formed the bridge between the visible and the invisible. Ruach is the inhale that stirs your being. Neshama is the witness that simply notices. To recalibrate before midnight is to feel both at once, to breathe consciously while remaining anchored in the observer. This harmony, they believed, allowed a person to walk through thresholds with clarity, protected not by force but by alignment. Imagine your inner world as a vast temple, Egyptian chambers, Buddhist sky, Hebrew breath light, all layered within you. In that temple, every doorway leads to the same quiet truth. Your reality does not shift because you force it. It shifts because you align with the version of yourself capable of receiving it. Midnight isn't powerful because of superstition. They're ways of reorganizing your field so that you meet each moment with presence rather than conditioning. When your breath deepens, your awareness widens. When your awareness widens, your heart lightens. When your heart lightens, the doorway opens. And when the doorway opens, life begins to respond to the version of you that is finally aligned with itself. There is also the ancient Hebrew teaching of Ruach and Neshama, the breath and the soul. They appear so you can choose whether to carry them across the threshold or set them down like stones that have weighed you for too long. In every ancient tradition, thresholds are sacred, doorways are blessed, gateways are honored. Why? Because they are moments when the world is malleable and your consciousness becomes the artist shaping it. Midnight is such a gateway, and the ancients would give you the same piece of guidance Tesla might whisper if he were beside you now. Step through only with what is light, coherent, and true. The field listens most deeply when you are quiet enough to feel your own breath, honest enough to weigh your heart, and aware enough to sense the sky within you. This is the ancient metaphor. This is your inner map, and it leads directly to the practice, the way you begin building coherence from the inside out so you can pass through the threshold with Tesla's clarity and your own soul's lightness. Before midnight arrives, before the field amplifies whatever state you carry into the next cycle, you need something more than understanding. You need a lived experience of coherence, something precise, gentle, and repeatable that brings you back into alignment without force. Think of this not as a technique, but as a bridge between the ancient metaphors and the quantum ideas already stirring inside you. The Egyptians built temples of stone. The Buddha built temples of breath. Tesla built temples of resonance. Here, you build one inside yourself, subtle, portable, always available. And like all sacred technologies, it begins with awareness. Find a position that feels grounded, seated, or standing, whichever allows your spine to lengthen without strain. Let your hands rest wherever they naturally settle. There's no right or wrong posture. You're not trying to look serene. You're simply preparing your inner architecture to receive clarity. As you settle, let your eyes soften or close. Not forced closed, just resting, like curtains gently drawn to dim the room. This is your signal to the nervous system. We are shifting from reaction to awareness, from static to signal. Now, breathe in gently through your nose. Don't expand the breath. Midnight is powerful because transitions magnify your inner architecture. You stand at the boundary between what has been and what can be, and in that moment, the temple becomes luminous. You feel old thoughts rising like ghosts, asking to be released. Old fears tightening like ropes around your chest. Old memories drifting up like dust in a beam of moonlight. These are not obstacles, they are offerings. On the next inhale, shift your attention to the exact moment your lungs fill before the exhale begins the tiny pause. Don't hold it. Don't extend it. Simply notice it. This is the quantum gap, the still point the Egyptians called the silence of Ra, the moment the Buddha described as the doorway to non-reactive awareness. It's brief, subtle, but it's the exact space where your observer emerges from behind the curtain of your thoughts. As you keep breathing, let your awareness rest on that gap. Inhale, pause, exhale, pause, not controlling, just noticing. The pauses are where coherence begins. Now bring your attention to your chest, the heart area, not the organ, but the field of sensation around it. This is where emotional residue accumulates, where heaviness is stored, where the heart feather metaphor becomes lived experience. As you inhale, imagine the breath moving into the heart space, not to fix or purge anything, but simply to acknowledge what's there. Maybe there's tightness, warmth, numbness, a subtle ache, or nothing at all. Whatever you find, notice it without naming it. The simple act of observing sensation without interpretation is the beginning of heart lightness. On your next few breaths, imagine the chest softening, not expanding dramatically, just loosening like a knot, gently untying. Don't try to be deep or impressive. Just a quiet inhale that feels like it originates from the base of your ribs rather than the upper chest. As you breathe in, imagine your breath tracing the inner walls of your body, like a soft light illuminating the chambers of your inner temple. Exhale slowly through the nose or mouth again, without force. Let the exhale feel like a release, not a performance. This is the first layer of recalibration, breath as soft illumination. Many people live disconnected from this area, breathing shallowly into the chest while their true center remains dormant. Inhale softly and let the breath reach the lower abdomen like a warm tide. On the exhale, imagine a subtle downward settling, as though your awareness is rooting into the earth. No force, no pushing, just a natural gravity. This anchors the observer so the mind doesn't drift into loops. When your breath reaches the belly, you become harder to pull out of alignment. Here is the micro protocol you can carry into daily life, simple, quick, and stabilizing. It has 3 steps. Notice, narrow, nest. Notice, when something triggers you, a message, a sensation, a thought, pause for half a second. Feel your breath, even if it's shallow or tight. Just notice it. Awareness interrupts the automatic loop. Narrow, bring all your attention to the next inhale. Not the whole breath cycle, just the next inhale. This centers your awareness into the field of your body, rather than the field of your mind. Tesla used to do this instinctively, focusing on a single breath to ground his internal oscillation. Nest. On the exhale, imagine your awareness settling down into your belly, or into the space behind your heart, like a bird returning to its nest. This brings coherence into your system in under 10 seconds. It's not dramatic, but it's powerful. When practiced consistently, this micro protocol begins rewiring your reactions. Here's a safety note. If at any point the breath feels uncomfortable or overwhelming, return to normal breathing. This practice is educational, not medical. You're not forcing your physiology. You're gently guiding your awareness. The goal is steadiness, not intensity. Now for the deeper practice, the one that prepares you for the midnight threshold. If any emotion arises, sadness, frustration, relief, let it be part of the clearing. You are not trying to become positive. You're becoming coherent. There's a difference. Coherence doesn't require happiness, it requires honesty. And as you continue, your heart begins to feel a little less armored, a little more spacious. This is your inner feather beginning to lift. Now move your attention down into your belly, the center of intuition, grounding, and personal power. With each exhale, feel your awareness settling back down into your center. Up on the inhale, down on the exhale. Rise and root, elevate and return. This is the cycle of coherence. This is how you turn your body into a Tesla coil of aligned presence. Steady, luminous, grounded. After a few minutes, you'll feel something subtle, a quiet brightness behind your sternum, a sense of being more in yourself, a spaciousness that wasn't there before. That feeling is recalibration. That's your field smoothing, your heart lightening, your observer settling into its rightful seat. This is the practice the ancients were pointing to. This is the breath Tesla trusted when words failed. And this is the foundation you'll need for what comes next. The turning point where you stop being a character trapped in a loop and begin acting as the conscious creator of your next reality. There comes a moment in every inner journey when understanding is no longer enough. Breath is no longer enough. Even awareness, on its own, is no longer enough. You reach a point where the field quietly asks you to choose. Will you continue living as the reactor of circumstances, or will you begin living as the creator of them? This moment is the turning point. It's subtle, but unmistakable, like the soft click of a key turning in a lock deep inside your chest. Something opens, something steadies, something remembers. The shift from victim to creator is not a performance of confidence. It isn't about pretending to be powerful or repeating optimistic slogans. It begins in the smallest place, the state you occupy before you interpret what is happening. When you change your state, your story changes. When your story changes, your strategy changes. And when your strategy changes, your life begins to reorganize. Tesla understood this intuitively. He didn't solve problems by wrestling with them. He changed his internal state, stepping into a frequency where solutions could reveal themselves and the outer world adjusted accordingly. You've lived long enough to know what the victim state feels like. It's heavy, reactive, hurried. Challenges seem predetermined. You feel pushed by life instead of in conversation with it. Your breath becomes tight. Your interpretation narrows. You forget the sky and become the storm. Yet the creator state doesn't arrive as a lightning bolt. It arrives as a slight widening of perception, a small expansion in which you realize, I can choose how I meet this. Not how the world behaves, not how people act, but how you inhabit your awareness in that moment. Inhale gently and visualize a horizontal line across your chest like the horizon. On the inhale, imagine the sky above it expanding. On the exhale, imagine the clouds drifting. This sky and clouds metaphor helps you differentiate between awareness and thought. You'll begin to sense yourself as the sky vast, unchanging, and your emotions as clouds moving, shifting, harmless. Then, add the final layer. With each inhale, feel the energy rising from your belly to your heart. Scene 1. Money. Imagine you open your banking app and see a number that triggers anxiety. The old loop activates instantly. Your breath tightens, your stomach contracts, your mind leaps to worst-case scenarios. From this state, every option feels limited. You begin thinking in scarcity, cutting back, shrinking your vision, assuming the future will mirror the past. This is the victim state. It collapses possibility, just like a heavy heart sinking on the scales of Maat. Now imagine instead that the moment your breath tightens, you notice it. You narrow your attention to a single inhale, then you nest your awareness into your belly on the exhale. Immediately, your state changes. Not dramatically, but noticeably. Your awareness widens. From this new state, the story shifts. Instead of, I'm failing, the story becomes, this is information. Possibilities emerge. A call you've delayed, a project you abandoned, a skill you've overlooked, a direction you've dismissed. Creativity returns because your field is no longer constricted. The strategy that arises from coherence always contains more options than the strategy that arises from fear. You didn't change the number in the bank. You changed the frequency reading it. And suddenly, what felt like proof of limitation becomes a doorway into intelligence, clarity, and action. This is what it means to pass the test in the realm of money. Scene 2. Relationship. Imagine someone you care about says something sharp or distant. Instantly, your nervous system flares. You feel dismissed, unseen, or hurt. Your breath rises into the chest. Your meaning-making machinery activates with stories. They don't value me. This is always how it goes. I need to protect myself. From this state, every response you choose reinforces distance. You defend. You retreat. You escalate. The loop thickens around you. But in the coherent state, you do something different. You pause for half a second and notice your breath. You inhale gently, and on the exhale, you nest your awareness back into your center. Now, your story shifts. Instead of reacting from old wounds, you become curious. What's actually happening for them? Emotional storms pass through your sky, but they don't define you. Your response becomes grounded, compassionate, clear. You speak from presence instead of pain. In this moment, you're not controlling the relationship, you're guiding the field between you. Coherence is contagious. When you hold it, the dynamic changes without force. This is what it means to pass the test in the realm of the heart. This how is everything. A shift of 2 millimeters in your inner alignment can redirect the entire arc of your life. To help you feel this shift, let's walk through 3 applied scenes: money, relationship, and leadership, where coherence becomes strategy, not theory. But the creator state meets pressure like a mountain meets weather. Breath steady, awareness wide, interpretation spacious. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You ask, what field am I shaping right now? You notice the room. You feel the energy. You choose coherence as your anchor. From this place, your presence becomes stabilizing. Others calm in your calm. Solutions emerge in the space your steadiness creates. You lead, not by force, but by field. This is the turning point Tesla lived inside. He was not powerful because he dominated problems, but because his awareness stayed coherent long enough for solutions to crystallize. He didn't react to obstacles, he resonated through them. And you can do the same not through intensity, but through alignment. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering someone ancient, the one within you who knows how to stand in the storm without becoming the storm. The one who understands that reality is not bent by fear, but by coherence. This is the moment you cross from "life is happening to me" into "life is responding to me." This is the shift from noise to signal, from heart heaviness to heart feather, from scattered electricity to Tesla resonance. And once this shift begins, the philosophical conclusion becomes unavoidable, a deeper truth about meaning, belonging, and the quiet dignity of being an aware human in a responsive universe. As you arrive at this point in the journey, something inside you has already shifted. You may not feel transformed in some dramatic or cinematic way, but there is a subtle internal reorganization happening, a kind of quiet recognition that your life is not simply a sequence of events, but an unfolding shaped by how you meet each moment. This recognition is not loud. It doesn't announce itself with certainty. It arrives the way dawn arrives, gradually, almost imperceptibly, until the world looks different without you knowing exactly when the light changed. Philosophers across centuries have tried to describe this shift. Some called it awakening, some called it self-remembrance, others called it the return to the essential. But beneath all the language is a single truth. There is a dignity and awareness that no circumstance can take away from you. It is the dignity of being a conscious participant in your own existence, not a passive observer of your fate. When you meet life from this place, even your simplest actions, tying your shoes, answering a message, stepping outside, feel infused with a quiet presence, as if something larger is moving with you. You begin noticing that the world responds differently when you are coherent. The same interactions, the same conversations, the same environments take on new texture. People soften in your presence. Challenges lose their sharpness. Ideas arrive in moments of stillness. Sindrai, leadership. Imagine you're in a situation where others depend on you, your family, your team, your community. Something unexpected occurs. A setback, a delay, a conflict. The old loop would have you tighten, rush, or collapse under pressure. You'd interpret the moment as a threat to your identity or competence. When you breathe with coherence, when you anchor your awareness in the observer, you contribute something invisible yet unmistakable to the spaces you inhabit. You become a stabilizing presence, an organizing principle, a quiet invitation for others to remember themselves, too. And this is where meaning begins to deepen. Not the kind of meaning that depends on achievement or status or recognition, but the kind that arises from connection, the connection between breath and body, the connection between intention and experience, the connection between your inner state and the world that meets you. You start to sense that belonging is not a reward, it's a condition of being alive. You belong because you are part of the field itself, made of the same awareness that animates every person, every creature, every leaf trembling in the wind. Tesla sensed this connection even in his solitude. His loneliness was not emptiness, it was spaciousness. He touched the field so deeply that he saw no separation between thought and light, between human and cosmos. You carry that same architecture within you. You don't need to be a mystic or an inventor to access it. You only need to become quiet enough to feel the subtle motion of your own awareness, the way it shapes your perception, the way it organizes your life. And what emerges from this quiet recognition is agency, not the kind that demands control, but the kind that rests in alignment. True agency is not loud, it's steady. It's the way mountains shape weather without ever moving. It's the way a single candle reorganizes a dark room. It's the way a coherent breath calms a frantic heart. Agency is the ability to choose your relationship with the moment, your state, your interpretation, your presence, regardless of what is happening around you. This is your power, not the power to bend reality through force, but the power to meet reality with such clarity that it reshapes itself around your steadiness. When you live from this place, You no longer fear thresholds. Midnight no longer feels like a deadline. It becomes a doorway. Each day feels less like something you need to survive, and more like something you're co-creating with the field. Your story stops being something happening to you. It becomes something unfolding through you. And perhaps the most human realization of all emerges. You are allowed to be both infinite and imperfect. You are allowed to breathe deeply one moment and forget the next. You are allowed to remember your coherence and lose it, and return again and again. The field doesn't judge you. Life doesn't hold scorecards. Awareness is not a test you pass or fail. It is a rhythm you return to, the way waves return to shore. So let this be your message to yourself. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You are arriving breath by breath, moment by moment into the version of yourself that life has been quietly calling forth. You are learning how to walk through the world with a lighter heart, a steadier breath, and an awareness that knows it belongs to something vast and beautiful. And as midnight approaches, you're not racing time, you're stepping into alignment with it. This is your belonging. This is your coherence. This is your place in the field. Even silence becomes meaningful, as though the universe is no longer rushing past you but walking beside you, whispering cues you were too distracted to hear before. This is the shift from noise to clarity, from contraction to spaciousness. Stillness becomes a kind of public art, not the absence of movement, but the presence of awareness. In a hurried culture that worships speed, stillness becomes a rebellion. It becomes a way of saying, I remember there is more to life than momentum. Tonight, you anchor yours not with incense or chanting, but with something far more intimate. Your breath, your intention, your word. Begin by sitting or standing in a way that feels natural. Nothing strict, nothing formal. Just you, aware of yourself in this moment. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw loosen. Let your breath arrive exactly as it is. This is not about deep breathing or perfect posture. It's about awareness meeting the present moment with honesty and gentleness. Now, take 3 coherent breaths with me. First breath, inhale gently through the nose, and exhale slowly. Feel your awareness settle into your chest, noticing the subtle warmth there. The heart space opening just enough to let the noise fall away. Second breath, inhale again, soft and unforced, and exhale with a sense of release. Feel the space behind your sternum expanding, like the inner sky clearing. This is the breath that loosens the old narratives you no longer need to carry. Third breath, inhale, pause, exhale. Feel your awareness drop into your belly, grounding you. This is the breath that prepares you to step into coherence with the field. Now, in this stillness, choose one word that represents the frequency you want to carry across the threshold of midnight. Not a wish, not a performance, a frequency, a direction for your inner compass. A word like clarity, courage, ease, trust, presence, coherence, truth, gentleness, steadiness, belonging. Let the word appear without overthinking. The field usually whispers it before the mind translates it. Once you hear or feel your word, hold it softly. Don't clutch it. Don't try to inflate it. Just let it sit in your awareness like a small flame in a quiet room. Now take one more inhale, and on the exhale either aloud or in your mind declare, I choose to, your word, as the observer. Feel that sentence move through you. Notice how your energy shifts when you speak from the observer rather than the old loop. This is not a slogan. It's a recalibration, a conscious encoding into the field of who you are choosing to be. The declaration enters the same quiet architecture Tesla trusted. Intention carried by coherence, transmitted through awareness. Stay with the resonance of that sentence for a moment. Let it settle into your chest, into your belly, into the subtle field around your body. This is your frequency now. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. Midnight will amplify whatever you carry into it, so let this be the compass you hold. If this journey helped you shift your state, if it helped you remember the observer, if it helped you feel lighter, clearer, or more grounded, then you are already in coherence. And coherence strengthens when shared. So as you step forward, I invite you gently, without pressure, to subscribe to this frequency, not to chase content, but to stay connected to a space that keeps you aligned, steady, and awake to your own power. Each video becomes a return point, a recalibration, a reminder that you are not navigating your reality alone. You can leave your chosen word in the comments to anchor it even further, or simply hold it in your awareness as you move into the next hour of your life. Either way, the field has heard you. The coherence has begun. Take one final inhale and exhale into stillness. Step through the doorway with your word. Midnight is listening,